Okay, next is from Alex Malone. The subject is blading. Hello, squad. I have a theory that some wrestlers who blade constantly, for example, Moxley or Flair when he was his Twilight, end up doing it as a kind of sanctioned self-harming due to emotional pain, whether they realize it or not. Konnan and Disco, with your time in the industry, do you think this theory has any merit in my snowflaking? Cheers. That's from Alex. That's a very fascinating point, Alex. It's like, people that, people, like, there's girls at work. I had a girl the other day at work, okay? I'm not going to say who it is, obviously. But she
Like
recently had an
anybody's gonna
abortion.
know who she is.
She recently had an abortion, okay? And she's been having trouble with the fact that she had an abortion because it's haunting her to the point that she cuts herself.
Yeah, I've seen
And
that.
she showed me her arm that she had cuts, right? And so people with emotional pain, like stuff like that, like things that haunt them, the cutting is a mechanism of people. Like, you could look at psychologists, like, so people that cut themselves constantly, like Moxley, like Flair, could be dealing with emotional pain that they just can't kick out of. What do you think about that, Konnan?
I don't know if it could be. It's possible. Like I bladed a lot in Mexico because all
How
my
often?
feuds, all my feuds were blood feuds. They ended.
But be very specific. Like, say for instance, how many over a 2-month period? How many nights would you work, and how many nights of those would you blade?
If I was in a feud that needed blood,
Mhm.
I would probably, in a 2-month period, I would probably bleed twice a week.
Interesting. Like
Yeah.
the big houses, you bleed.
Right.
Right. And how often would you have to, like, how many times did you have feuds where you had to bleed?
Like
Every
I said,
feud?
every feud. Because to me, I had a formula,
Right.
and it always included blood. I would always start off like in a 3-on-3 match, then a 2-on-2 match, then a 1-on-1 match, and then that 1-on-1 match we would extend it and do like we would have a no DQ match, and then it would usually end up in a cage or something. So I would extend it as long as I could, and most of those matches needed blood. And then when we went to a place where it was really hot and it was sold out, that's what people wanted to see. I bled because, or he bled, or we both did, because people just, once they saw blood, they became more emotional, more involved, more like, oh, this is real,
Okay. So I'm gonna bring up.
The heat got bigger.
I want to bring up a discussion here on this, right?
Right.
So, what do you think now? Like in the year 2023, that was back in the early 90s, right?
Right.
Okay, so with to the point, like, when you have a blood feud, it's predicated on the amount of heat you're getting because the people are invested in the angle, and they're suspending disbelief, and they're buying into that it's real. Okay, so now let's fast forward like 30 years. And here we are in 2023, and you got guys still bleeding and everything, but like in the big picture, since nobody thinks it's real, and they're literally showing themselves doing it and everything, bro, this just comes across as self-mutilation to try to get ratings. Like,
I think the biggest problem about blading nowadays, Disco, is because in Mexico, which is a whole different culture, very different than the United States in many ways, just like Japan is, just like everybody doesn't think like Americans.
Right.
Like when you bleed in Mexico, people still get hot like 20 years ago.
Well,
they get, and so, but here's a problem in the United States, especially in AEW. It just comes off as gratuitous,
Right.
I mean, when Moxley is wrestling, every week he wrestles somebody different, usually with very little to no buildup. Why are you bleeding?
Right. Because maybe what this guy's email says. The bleeding is a mechanism because he's dealing with emotional pain. He has to cut himself.
I'm not going to say what you're expecting me to say.
Because there was a point where he went, like we said, we see the videos. He's not even hiding it. He's just pulling his blade out and just cutting himself right in front of everybody.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. I could not believe that. And the fault is on two people, him and the camera guy. Bro, you're in a truck, right? For people that don't know, and I'm sure you've seen this on TV.
The camera's right on it.
You're in a truck. There's various screens. And the director of camera is saying, camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. Bro, the moment that he saw him take out that blade, he should have switched to another camera angle. Yeah.
He was shocked. The guy's in shock, right?
Yeah.